I was going to make vegetable juice with the tomatoes, frozen tomatoes, and the green pepper from the garden, but I've changed my mind. I've decided that I'm going to make vegetable soup instead, and I just got out a quart of onions from the garden that's frozen. So this was all frozen stuff. Just put it in a great big spaghetti, oven safe spaghetti pot, and I'm going to make vegetable soup. This is kind of like my starter, just these three things that were frozen garden vegetables. Okay, this is what I had in the oven. So I took it out of the oven, and it was frozen tomatoes, green peppers, and onion that I had frozen from the garden. So I brought it to a boil, and I've picked off, I froze the tomatoes. It's simpler to peel them, but I had frozen tomatoes with the skin on it, a whole tomato. So the skins come to the top, and basically you just pick them off the top, and I'm going to squeeze the juice out of that and put it in the pot. And I have going here a head of cabbage and about 6 large carrots and at least 4 stalks of celery cooking in there separate. So I had all the frozen stuff that I put in the oven for 4 or 5 hours or so. You just want to let it cook in there at around 350 for 4 or 5 hours. You just test it and see when you're making a large pot. This is a large, very large spaghetti pot. And so anyhow, I've got this a-cooking with around 7 bay leaves, because I'm going to have this pot when I get done pretty well full. So I like the bay leaf flavor. So now what I'm going to do, since this is just about tender, all the frozen vegetables that I had, I'm going to add 2 the frozen vegetable packs and 1 pack of baby lima beans to it. So there is the vegetable soup with the 2 packs of mixed vegetables and 1 pack of baby lima beans added. And this is how much broth that I got from the squeezing out the tomato skins. So it's probably, I don't know, half a cup or so, maybe a little bit more. So now it's just a matter of waiting for the cabbage, carrots, and celery to soften up and get tender enough to add that to this. So I'm going to bring this to a boil, and then I'm going to turn this back because I've got my frozen vegetables in now. So I'll just bring it to a boil, turn it up a little up to high, and as soon as it starts boiling, I'll just put it back down to simmer. And it's getting pretty close to a boil at this point. And so, okay, here is my large pot of survival soup. There's no meat in it, but the roast that I made and froze, I can take out as needed. I left some out, and put small amounts in here, just enough to give a little taste. I did use the broth to make gravy for lunch, so I didn't have any broth in here for the soup. So I do have 1 can of beef broth, was all I had on hand. So I'm not going to put it in here and have it boil away. I'm going to put it in at the very last minute. Idealistically, if you have at least 2 to 4 cans of beef broth, and if you have beef bones to cook in it, it really makes it much more flavorful. But I didn't have the bones today, and I only have the 1 beef broth. So I'm going to utilize it at the very last. The only thing that's in here as for the broth is 2 quarts of V8 juice, and the 2 gallons I used of frozen tomatoes that I had started it out in the oven to thaw and partially cook. And then I put approximately 2 to 3 cups of water just to thin down the broth a little, so it wouldn't be too awful thick. So that's got like a gallon of green peppers from the garden, a quart of onions from the garden, about 6 carrots, about 2 stalks of celery, a head of cabbage, 7 bay leaves, and I don't know if I already said the 2 mixed vegetables, frozen mixed vegetables, bag of those, and 1 bag of the baby lima beans. That is, you can get a lot of mileage out of this. You can take and freeze it in quart-size zip bags after it completely cools. You want to make sure to completely cool it. I just put it in the refrigerator after it cools down. I put it in the refrigerator overnight, and then tomorrow I will start putting it in the freezer bags.